Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
What's up, everybody? That is a wrap. 2022 season is in the books, and Quick Slants has come to the end of its 2022 run. We're going to go on a little hiatus, but we'll be back at you during free agency, of course, and then, of course, during the draft, and, of course, during training camp, and, of course, we'll just do it all over again. But, you know, this bow was placed on the 2022 season with a Super Bowl that, to me, had to be one of the top 10 all time. Yeah, I mean, the ending was a little drama-free, and the better team didn't win, but you had a transcendent player on a bad ankle adding to his legend. Now, the reactionary among us, who are also idiots with no sense of history or perspective, they're all tripping over themselves in a race to crown Patrick Mahomes the GOAT in waiting. If this was the Boston Marathon, Pat would be in Framingham. He's on a good pace, but let's wait until Heartbreak Hill before you mention he and Tom Brady in the same breath. We're going to get to more of that in just a minute. But here's the game plan, ladies and gentlemen. Super Bowl shrapnel. We got some leftovers to kick through. Where's Andy fit? Is Andy Reid one of the greatest of all time? Patriot optimism. I'm going to hit you with that in my slant. Watch out! And we have a double poll day. You'll like the second poll, which many people said, why are you even polling people about this? But before we get to that, let's bring in Kay Adams. Hey, Kay.
Oh, hey, how are you? What's going on?
Where's Kay?
Hi.
Is that Michael Hurley?
Yeah, no, I'm Kay. How are you?
Okay. All right, Kay is doing a commercial today. She thought we were done last week. I didn't apprise her that we have one more, so.
Nothing like a good backup plan.
It's time now for Quick Fire. It's presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Pause. Okay, big conversation this week. Is it a dynasty or not? To me, Michael, it's simple. You need three of them, and you need three of them probably in about a 4 or 5 year span. Your thoughts on this?
Great answer by Pat. Same thing as last week when they said, are you up to Brady? He said, talk to me when I'm 38. He's answering it the right way. Some of his teammates in the past, I know Chris Jones might have thrown the dynasty word around. Remember Tyreek Hill said they were chasing Jordan after they won one. So as a whole, the franchise might be getting ahead of itself, but good answer by Pat. No, you got to win three. But Tom, you can't win three until you win two first. So they're on their way.
That's a very good point by you. And this is a good point, I thought, by Emmanuel Acho, who said on ESPN this week that maybe that idea of 4 from the Steelers and 5 world championships from the Packers, 4 from the Niners, 3 in 2 consecutive decades by the Patriots, maybe that's kind of a thing of the past. Basically, they're alongside teams like the Cowboys of the 70s. They're alongside teams like, maybe the 80s Raiders, late 70s Raiders, the 70s Dolphins. They got 2. They need more. Meanwhile, here's a guy who had plenty of humbleness and humility when he was asked about the holding penalty that in many ways determined the winner of the Super Bowl. James Bradbury said, I feel like I only had 2 options. Really, I could take responsibility for it, or I could blame it on someone else. Try not to live that way. It comes from my mom or coaches in the past I've had. Taking accountability. Bradbury, of course, speaking about the fact that when asked in the locker room if he had done a bad thing, he said, yeah, I cheated, and they caught me.
Yeah, it's just a veteran player being a respectable veteran. So you've got to appreciate that, because if he came out and said, I mean, they weren't calling anything all game, how are they going to call it there? They blew the game. It doesn't look good on him. He'll let people such as myself say that instead and be right about it, and he can look good. So it's a win-win for everybody.
I like the fact that this guy came out and said that. Was it the correct call by the letter of the law? Absolutely. He also did it in the open. Was it doing business as business had been being done all game? No, not really. But, you know, to talk about somebody speeding, you can't just say, well, that guy was speeding too. Well, that doesn't absolve you. All right, meanwhile, here's a tweet you're going to enjoy. It's from a guy named Clefwood. He's, of course, at Clef the God. And he offered this. Imagine if Brady won a Super Bowl on one ankle. That was the greatest difficulty Super Bowl we've seen from a quarterback in a long time. On one ankle against the #1 pass rush in the league. Where do we start, Clefwood? Let's bring everybody up to speed. In 2001, Brady barely played in the Super Bowl and engineered a win after having to be forced from the AFC Championship game. 2007, high ankle sprain left him in a boot wandering the streets of New York before the Super Bowl. 2015, before he took 25 shots from Von Miller and company in the AFC Championship game, he had another high ankle sprain. 2017, he ripped open his hand before the Jacksonville Jaguars AFC Championship game and went on to throw for 500 yards in the Super Bowl. Additionally, going against the number one defense, you want to talk about a number one defense? Number one defense was the Seattle Seahawks in 2014. Brady shredded them to bring them back from 24-14 down. Need I say more?
Yeah, Tom, I'll say this because I guess this is what we're going to be doing for the next 5 to 10 years is comparing Brady and Mahomes. Let's make sure the world knows that Tom Brady was a tough bastard. I feel like because he whined to referees and is sort of a pretty boy model, he gets credited as not as tough as he is. The man missed games to injury once in his career. It was a whole season, but he never broken ribs, broken fingers, the ripped open hand, which I know Bill Belichick downplayed at the time. We've seen the photos since, gruesome stuff. The man played through everything. Maybe it wasn't as evident as Pat Mahomes, and it's not to take away from Mahomes. I thought that 26-yard run was outstanding, but we don't need to tear down Tom Brady to hold up what Patrick Mahomes did.
It's deja vu. That's what we were hearing in 2001. When we were talking about Brady and Bledsoe, and people were like, well, you don't have to tear down Drew to say why Brady's a good player. Kind of did, because the statue of Drew was very, very tall, and he was statuesque when on the field, as in mobile as a bird bath. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for From the Stands. First up comes the poll results, and I'm going to step closer to the television because my eyes. How high has Patrick Mahomes climbed on the list of all-time quarterbacks? Overwhelmingly, people say he's in the top 10. 27% have him in the top 5 already. And I like that. I think that's sensible. Top 3, 7, he's the best 2. I think people are just playing grab ass when they say that. Here's some of the comments that we had on this topic. First off, our guy Corbs 872. He's already better than Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers. I'll give you 2 or 3 there. Definitely top 5. Next up, the Squall. You can chip in on this too, Mike.
Sure.
I think that ranking players 5 years into their career is silly. Tough crap. Not to mention how difficult it is to rank quarterbacks from this era versus earlier years. Well, that's why we watch. Mike, anything?
I mean, it's true. We are very early. As a wise man once said, if this was the Boston Marathon, he'd be in Framingham.
Good point by me. And I guess Squall, when you think about it. Kenneth Mantler says his career is 2 TO short. 2 TOO put him in the top 10. Yet, the career stats aren't there to put him above people like this. I love when people start doing that. Like Elway, or the old timers like Graham and Unitas and Nagurski. And what about, come on, don't.
I'm a big auto guy, Tom.
You want to see my top 5, Mike?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I want to see it because, listen, Mahomes, to me, this season he just had was so spectacular, and it didn't even draw that much attention. So that, to me, I think was a huge step forward for him, like 41 touchdowns. Did you even notice? He's that good. So he's on his way, folks.
It's not only that he's on his way, and that's why you'll see him on this list coming up right here. Throw that up there, Bucket. He's number 5, and there's a reason. Every single one of those guys has multiple Super Bowls. Tom Brady, of course, has 7. Montana had 4. He went 4-0 in the game during a time when the giants and titans of the league, really the giants and titans as an adjective, not the teams, were impossible to get through. Peyton Manning, he won and he compiled numbers, and he did it with a noodle arm. John Elway, the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes I've seen. Where's Marino? Where's Favre? Where's Bradshaw? Where's Aikman? Where's you name it? Breeze? The next tier down. Where's Aaron Rodgers? Next tier down. Because all of them got 1. Except for the Bradshaws, who were not nearly as good a passer.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time for the whole package. Peyton Manning's the best passer I've ever seen in my life.
Wait a minute!
The best passer of the football.
By
Peyton
what
Manning
measure?
Is there. By the fact that he could sit there and throw all day long, and he was a.
Hey, but
Can we not besmirch Peyton Manning? He was a great passer. I think the stats bear that out. Wasn't a great January player. Wasn't a great winner. I don't love him as the favorite quarterback. And to
but he
me,
wasn't a great passer. He had a great brain.
He was a great passer. And
Marino
to me,
was a better passer.
Okay, well, he was I only saw the very end of Dan Marino, so you can speak to that better than me. But to me, Mahomes is there with Rodgers as the most gifted quarterbacks I've ever seen. The difference is Mahomes has already won more than Rodgers, so he's probably passed him in that regard. But the most physically impressive, oh my God, did you see that throw? Did you see that run, that throw against his body? Rodgers has done that for a long time.
I agree.
Mahomes is right there with him.
Rodgers and Mahomes are there, but I look at Mahomes and say, okay, but he's also got the brain to an extent of Brady and Manning to an extent.
It's developing. Remember, after he won his first one, he's like, I don't even really know how to read a defense. So
he says, when I'm out there and I'm running around, I'm afraid. I love that. Meanwhile, it's time for Ask Kay. She's not here, but here's Kay on Andy Reid.
I'll also say where you're underreacting to Andy Reid, and let's get into it here. And I know it's all about Big Andy and that cheeseburger, but I went through my entire career covering sports and even being a fan before I really got into it. My entire career was the lazy narrative that Andy Reid is a good coach, not a great coach. He's a good coach, but he can't win the big one. And this was the label. This was if there was a Real Housewives of NFL coaches, that Andy Reid, I'm a good coach, but I can't win the big game. That would be his damn tagline, people. And it followed him through his whole time. I just made Marissa laugh, and that made me so happy. God.
I miss her, Mike.
I don't blame you.
If we want to talk about the people that Andy Reid is on a par with, we're going to talk about guys who have 2 Super Bowls. We're going to talk about Mike Shanahan, for instance, or Tom Flores, Tony Dungy. Tremendous class of coaches who had great success. But when we talk Mount Rushmores, when we talk about the Lombardis, the Walshes, the George Hallases, the Bill Belichicks, it's a different plane. It's an entirely different plane. And Andy Reid has been so good for so long that we obviously give him the credit. I mean, Don Shula compiled wins, won a Super Bowl with the Dolphins, and then just stacked wins, but not titles nor Super Bowl appearances for the rest of his career. So it's hard to measure, but to me, Andy Reid is one of the greatest offensive minds of all time, but still a cut below that Rushmore that would include Belichick at all. Oh, second best to Belichick this century, though.
Okay. I'm not Kay, but I agree with Kay. I think it's cool to see him go. And he was a laughing stock every year. Remember the Chiefs came in here in the playoffs? the
right.
Alex Smith is like, oh, they blew the clock again. It's great to see a guy who's just lived and breathed football his whole life and is very creative and is very dynamic as an offensive coach have this success. So I think everybody's happy for Andy.
You know what? And he's a nice guy. Yeah. A legitimately nice guy. I've spent some time with the guy at the owners' meetings. He's a gas. Coming up after the break, I'm going to tell you why the New England Patriots are knocking on the door of the Super Bowl. Not really, but you'll see. Potential. Wow, look at that list. That's the Patriots' 2023 free agents. Some of the key ones. Aguilar, you knew that. McCourty's probably going to retire. I bet Matt Slater does too. Some offensive guys. Philly Myers, a big one. Jonathan Jones. Right at the end there, though, there's 3 of them that I think are actually sneaky key. Add 4, Jabril Peppers. But Yodny Kajust, James Ferentz, and Connor McDermott. Now it's time for my slant and telling you why. Watch-ow! Nothing in the Super Bowl did I see disabuse me of my belief that it's all about the offensive line and the coaching of that offensive line and the offense that will make all the difference and on how quickly the Patriots can get to elite or even really good, because that's the spot that they can most quickly accomplish improvement. Check this out. The Eagles had an offensive line with guys like Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce up front. And those guys have like 18, literally, all-pro or Pro Bowl selections between them. Rest of the guys are really good. They have a rushing attack. Patriots have an okay rushing attack when things are going good. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney, and Orlando Brown Jr. 3 guys on their offensive line who are upper-tier players. Both teams have offensive line coaches who have been around for 10 years, Andy Heck and Jeff Stoutland. The Patriots only need to get that part right. The reason? There's no yawning gap on their entire roster on either side of the ball that makes you say, oh my God, what are they going to do there? Because if Trent Brown plays like Trent Brown, they're going to be okay. If a guy like Connor McDermott, who was a tackle last year, played 6 games and was fairly competent, and Yodny Kajust, who did the same thing, can come back and play at a decent level, at least you have an answer at right tackle. The middle of the Patriots offensive line, Andrews, Onwenu, Cole Strange, who's going to improve, pretty good. There's enough wide receiver talent. There's enough tight end talent. There's enough quarterback talent, even if you want to push back on that, to at least be good. And we saw this defense. There were people that Phil Perry talked to who played against the Patriots defense this year. They told Phil they were nasty. Might rhyme with Jakob Johnson of the Las Vegas Raiders, who told Phil that. Phil, I hope you're not watching. I don't know if that was a privileged conversation, but it's really not telling any tales. The Patriots are closer to good than you think now that they've got Adrian Clem and, even more importantly, Bill O'Brien in the house. Hurley, am I out of my mind?
Hate to say it, Tom, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. That is what was killing this team last year. You are nothing without an offensive line. And as we know, the offensive line coach was a bit compromised with his duties last year. And that hurts when you spend your first-round pick on a guard out of Chattanooga who needs the coaching, didn't get it. And now it's clear that not only are they going for an offensive line coach, Tom, but they're getting a guy who was getting paid, reported $850,000, and they outbid them. They're paying for it. So it tells you how much they value it and how much they saw it. And you're right. Trent Brown is the biggest swing possibility here from year to year. And you could probably figure it out on the other side, and you got a decent little line there.
And you got an opportunity to draft players, to bring them in via free agency where you do have the money, or to re-up guys like Jonathan Jones or Jacoby Myers in free agency. So opportunities abound for this team to make a rapid improvement. Meanwhile, here's another poll. I wanted to throw it out there because it's been something that was, as I'm watching the game, I'm like, it's just too easy. Pushing the ball carrier is a big reason for the Eagles' 4th and short proficiency. Should it be outlawed? Yes, it's body surfing, for God's sake. 42% of you. No, it's power versus power. Man up, Curran. 45%. 13% said, I never really thought about it. Big nose. Here's some comments. First guy up, Mikey McKeach. I have no opinion on this, but I guarantee if the Patriots were the ones spearheading, the competition committee would be looking to shut it down this offseason.
Fair point.
Next up, Jeff Fuller myself. I love this guy. If an offensive player can pick up another player and carry him 99 yards, I say go for it. Just get 10 guys to pick up the 11th and let the fun begin. Mike, you'll be finding, we actually used to have a basketball tournament that said goaltending was legal if you can get up that high.
Yeah, fair enough.
At it.
Fair enough.
Ryan Pilo. Other teams have tried that and have been unsuccessful, so if you don't like it, stop them. Travis probably hit the nail on the head the most. I can't express how low this is on the list of things the NFL needs to fix. Mikey, what do you think?
Yeah, I would probably lean toward, I forget who responded, but if you don't like it, stop it, because
Ryan Pilo.
Haven't thought about it that much. Usually you see it on a goal line play where someone's held up, and if your guys on defense can push me backwards, then my guys should be able to push me. I've just never seen anyone do it like this offensively, under center with 2 guys on each butt cheek, ready to push. They're just really good at it. It was unstoppable, but like most things in sports, teams innovate, and they'll figure it out.
I'm supposed to throw to a tease, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to explain why I think it's important. The offensive line gets a heartbeat of a running start because they know when the snap is, so they get the initial push. If it's only inches you need, and there are people pushing from behind, there's no athleticism involved. There's no real mano-a-mano because somebody is being used from back. So to me, you need to level the playing field. All you have to do is don't even throw a flag. Just say you can't push from behind. If you do push from behind, then where the forward progress was stopped is where the play ends.
I'm sure they'll nail it. I'm sure the officials will absolutely.
No, you're right. Let's give them something else to think about. Meanwhile, after the break, here's K. That's not K either. Okay, Phil's mock draft after the break. Nice pipes. Check out the latest Next Pats podcast. Phil Perry tells us about a certain advanced metric that should make Patriots fans feel real good about Mac Jones. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen, or find it on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. Meanwhile, speaking of Phil, here he comes. Mock draft time.
Now that the Super Bowl has come and gone, you know it is officially mock draft season. We've got another full mock draft, all 7 rounds for the New England Patriots on NBCSportsBoston.com. We're going to start right here with number 14 overall in the scenario in which the Patriots find themselves. There are a load of receivers still on the board. Quentin Johnson from TCU, Zay Flowers from BC. Yes, there's a tackle, Broderick Jones from Georgia, and Joey Porter from Penn State. The cornerback is available as well, but Bill Belichick goes with the receiver position, addressing a serious need for his team, getting Mac Jones the help he needs with Quentin Johnson. This Horned Frog, 6'4", 215 pounds. He runs about a 4.4 40. Unreal athleticism at the position for a man of that size. He forced 18 missed tackles last season. Yes, he's had some drops issues, and yes, he disappeared in the national championship game against Georgia, but that's why he's available at 14 overall. A top 10-ish talent in this year's draft. Bill Belichick sprints in the card. On to the second round. Patriots still need a tackle at number 46 overall, so they turned to an SEC product who just dominated in the Senior Bowl. Sound like their kind of player? He is. Darnell Wright, 6'6", 335 pounds. He made Alabama's Will Anderson, who will be a top 5 pick, look like just another guy this past season. And then down in Mobile, Alabama, he was named the American team's top offensive line player for the week of practice at the Senior Bowl. Size, power, athletic enough, but we'll see. That's what Dante Scarnecchia always wanted out of his offensive lineman. That's one reason why Wright might slip to the second round. Now on to the third round. Patriots seem set on the interior of their offensive line with Cole Strange, David Andrews, and Micah Wenu, but they will be looking for depth there this offseason, and they find it in the third round with TCU's Steve Avila, 6'4", 333 pounds, another people mover, and a pocket protector on the interior for Mac Jones to keep him upright from where Mac Jones likes to work best. He's also going to be a gap scheme bouncer, throwing people out of the club using that size when he's pulling or on those double teaming schemes where they're getting downhill, trying to get Patriots running backs going. He will be a perfect fit in the Bill O'Brien-led Patriots offense, and Mac Jones can be very happy to see more offensive line depth come his way. For the entire 7-round Patriots mock draft, head on over to NBCSportsBoston.com.
7 rounds already. What jumps off the page at you from what Phil had to say, Mikey boy?
Phil doing a 7-round draft 5 minutes after the season ends, but Quentin Johnston, love that. Rewatch the Super Bowl today, Tom. A.J. Brown, such a monster. Everyone looks at the touchdown, but slants, everything. He could just turn 5 yards into 50. You need that guy. Need that guy.
Speaking of slants, that's the end of this one. We'll see you in about a month. Bye. Thanks, Mike.